Hey guys, welcome back to the Pageant Project. My special guest will be a familiar face to many of you. It's Christell Foote. She has now taken her skills to entrepreneurship, footwear. Her brand she formed this past year started from her passion for shoes and not ever being able to find one that fit her. Fast forward, she has now created the glass slipper, a shoe that doesn't ask a girl to compromise, a symbol of authenticity and identity. Well, Christell, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm just fabulous. It's Miss USA 2025 week. I've been watching online. It's exciting.
Crazy. Does it make you feel like you had your turn last year, but does it kind of make you feel like you're missing out?
A little bit because leading up to competing at Miss USA last year, I competed 7 years straight before winning my title. And I think just being the first year out of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm breathing, I'm relaxed. This is weird.
7 years straight. What's wrong with you? That that must be taking some resilience because pageantry is never like a straight path, is it?
Yeah, I mean, so through that 7 year span, I was every position you could be in the top five, from first runner up to fourth runner up, everything in between. And I was just trying to figure it out. But my first pageant ever, actually, I was a senior in high school. I was a little late to the game, as some would say, but I actually got a letter in the mail of, "Do you want to be the next Miss Teen USA?" And I was like, "Oh my word, I wonder like who referred me to this." To this day, I still don't know. I would love to know, whoever you are. But I said, "What if I do this? Like, I would love to just try it because I always watched Miss USA on TV growing up, Miss Universe on TV. I mean, what little girl didn't?" So I was like, I didn't realize it was actually attainable for me to be a part of this organization. And so I entered, I think 4 weeks before. I wore ballet flats on the stage. I didn't wear heels because I couldn't find a dress long enough in that short notice. I wore a business suit for my interview because I thought, you show up like that, you don't wear the glitz and the glam. I looked so out of place. And I got top five in my first pageant ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually kind of good at this. And I kind of loved it.
So just to clarify, can you tell the people watching how tall you are?
Yes, I am 6'4", and no, I do not play basketball. Middle school was definitely very difficult for me. I was not confident at all. And again, like you said, you walk into a room, you can't hide that you're super tall. I hit 6 foot in eighth grade, and it was a very out of place feeling. I never felt like I belonged, especially because I moved around growing up. I went to different schools. I moved states, so I was always trying to fit in. And when you physically don't fit in, you figure out what you could try and change about yourself to try and fit in. And so I was always trying to navigate that. And I finally, I think, when I was in high school, accepted that it's okay not to look like everybody else. And I actually did start standing taller, walking into the room, embracing every inch of myself. But it took some time. I mean, definitely was difficult, but I think that has added to my story now of where I am and how I do feel about my height, which I love it now. And I think it's kind of cool to tell that story of where I've progressed from.
What's the most difficult thing about being your height? I mean, I have some knowledge of it, but I'm sure your journey as a young woman being that height has its own angles. What do you think some of the most difficult things about being your height are, and whether it's serious or funny?
Yeah.
I leave it up to you because it's probably both.
Yeah. I'd say on the more serious note, it didn't help having the last name Foot and being this tall. I definitely got those Bigfoot comments, which was not very fun. But on the um less serious note, I whenever I would see another tall girl, 5'11" or taller is what I consider a tall girl, because then I know you have a problem finding jeans. And so then that's my conversation with her. Oh my gosh, where did you get your pants that are long enough? And then we would connect on that and have that conversation. And then it would be like, oh, and where'd you get your shoes? Because are you a size 11? Are you a size 12? And so now that conversation, I can bring it back to my own brand now in that story, but it's always finding the clothes that fit.
How difficult is it for you to find like clothes off the rack that fit?
I think with time, it's become easier because I know where to look. But before I knew where to look, it was always online ordering 20 different things and returning the ones that didn't fit. But there are brands out there that have my size right. I don't have to custom order anything really. It's just the fun game of, all right, let's order a few and see what happens. But I really do attribute the tall girl community. I mean, on TikTok nowadays, I'll see a tall girl video and people will be like, oh, drop the link. And everyone is so community based with when it comes to being in the 6 foot club.
Can you tell the people watching what got you hooked into pageantry? Because it's one thing you get your start, but something must have persuaded you to stay, as you already said, 7 years.
I think I really did find my voice in pageantry, and some of this sounds cheesy, I get that, but for me, it's my truth, because like I mentioned, I would walk into a room and I didn't feel like I would belong. And through pageantry, I felt like I belonged. I found my voice. I became more confident in myself and the message I wanted to share with people. And after every single experience, even my first pageant when I was that senior in high school, a little girl or her mom would come up to me in the lobby of the auditorium and be like, oh my word, like my daughter thinks you're an inspiration, or oh, like I love to see representation in tall girls. Because, body inclusivity is such a broad word, but I feel like tall girls are a sector of that. We are our own body type within that whole category. And so to be able to make an impact on little girls, or parents saying that I made a difference in their daughter's life, that kept me going. And I always told people, like, you can't give up on your dreams. So I'd be such a hypocrite if I gave up on mine.
Was that the first time you found like you found a home?
I'd say yes, because I think even in high school, again, I moved around, and in high school, I was still like the new girl. I didn't feel settled the whole time. And so at the end of the pageant, having those girls still texting me and us figuring out if we could go volunteer somewhere together, I'm like, no one in my high school is asking me to volunteer with them. Everyone has such a large heart that competes. And at least that I've encountered, which I've been blessed to be a part of that group of girls. But I think having that experience, it just kept me going.
Let's get into it. Why don't we start with the genesis of it? So clearly at that moment, it was a dream to own your footwear brand. But I don't need to tell you, there's a very large gulf or gap between thinking about it and then executing on it. There are many things you don't realize you need to know. Whether it's website design or finding suppliers to supply the ins and outs and then designing the shoe. Can you walk people through the process of what it took to go from having this idea in your head to where we are now? You actually have the product right there.
Right. I mean, the first steps are just having the conversation, which sounds just hilarious thinking about it now that I actually have a product to look at. But having the conversation, okay, are we doing this and how are we going to make it happen? And just, I think, having that brainstorm call. And then from there, you piece together everything. But I wanted to do it the right way. And so before a product was even talked about, I had to form my business, right? I'm an LLC. I wanted to do it right. And so I got a lawyer, and that's so much fun. Love seeing those bills. And I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, do I want to get a trademark? Where do I want to be incorporated? How do I want to be formed? Am I a sole owner? And so I knew a little bit of that because I have a corporate job in the midst of all of this. And I also graduated with my bachelor's in business administration. So you hear these words in a classroom, in a textbook, or through the grapevine at work, whatever it is, but actually sitting down and learning it for your own business is completely different.
I mean, you mentioned some of the things. So becoming an LLC, taking on a lawyer, what were some of the most unexpected, what were some of the most difficult things, even in the lead up before you had given any thought to designing the shoe? What were some of the hardest obstacles you had to overcome?
I think, I mean, you have to make a financial decision too in all of this, right? And so I think having that conversation with my parents, I'm an only child, and I knew I wanted them behind me during all this, not even with financial support, but with emotional and physical support, because at the end of the day, my dad, I call him my COO. He is who packs up my orders at the warehouse. And I knew they would be coming on this journey with me too. So it wasn't a one woman job. I knew it was going to be a family job, and so I needed to get them on board too, because my parents, they have their lives, they have their jobs, so it needed to be a full family project.
So just to clarify, every woman that gets a pair of footwear, it was packed by your dad?
Almost every pair. I'm there for some of it when I'm not traveling for work, but I'd say 95% Mitchell Foote, he packed it up.
You should put a little card in there or something like that just to say packed by you, and people can randomly find ones that were packed by yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, how much does it mean to have your parents behind you every step of the way?
It means the world, and I mean, I don't say that lightly, because they have been with me through the pageantry steps and now the footwear steps. And I mean, even every adventure I've gone through in my life, they were so supportive always. So, and I think this is honestly the biggest endeavor. Not to discredit my time at Miss USA
Yeah.
and with that organization, but this it hits closer to home, because every single part of it is blood, sweat, and tears, honestly, from me and my parents.
Okay, let's talk timeline. So as I said, that interview with Nia was published 9 months ago, and in between then and now, you actually have the product, and I'll get you to demonstrate the product in a sec. But what were the various timelines? So what came first, and how long did each phase take? Because I think a lot of people who've never started a business, they have this preconception, probably, that it's going to be easier than it actually turns out to be. But they're like, oh, they start thinking of shoe designs and finding suppliers. And then you mentioned forming the LLC and finding a lawyer. And I'm just curious, how long did each phase take? Because I think everyone would be like, oh, I'd start designing immediately. And I'm just thinking that might not even have been the main component time wise that it took you. So 9 months, can you break that up into how long each phase took?
Yeah, so I get back from Miss USA last August, and by September, I'm like, well, what's next? And had the conversations then, and from August to November had the LLC formation part of it all, and the trademark filing and all the logistic parts of it. I didn't see a shoe until January of 2025. So from September to December was just the planning, the figuring out the logistics of it all, and like you said, the designing. And then the actual first sample was, I think, the second week of January. And then that was my first of 4 samples, because I was not impressed with the first sample and I wanted it to be perfect. For every aspect of the shoe, had thought into it, from not only a pageant girl, but a model, a girl that likes to go out with her friends and maybe stay out late at a bar, go to dinner with her girlfriend and want to feel cute, wear them to a corporate meeting and not feel like they're too outlandish. Every aspect of the shoe, I wanted it to be able to be bigger than pageantry, and that's my hope for it one day. Obviously, I'm starting in this niche because it's what I know, it's what I'm familiar with, but I want it to be that perfect footwear for every woman.
Can you walk me through the emotional journey of when those samples arrived, particularly when the first one arrived and it wasn't, let's say, up to par? And I've had some experience with this because I've published several books, and sometimes the first one shows up. Amazon very thoughtfully, literally printed one of my copies upside down. So the
Oh no.
copy, the cover, you open it up, and it's the last page upside down. And one of the people reached out to me and said, "Did you print your book upside down?" It's like, no. Let me have a word with Amazon.
Yeah.
Can you? What's the emotional journey when you have this thing that you dedicate so much blood, sweat, and tears, and
Mhm.
then it arrives and it's less than perfect, but then also when you finally get it and it is everything you imagine it to be? What is that like?
Yeah, so in January, I was happy at first to see the box, right? I
Yeah.
open it up, I see the shoe, my logo is embossed on the sole. I cried. And then I put the shoes on, and immediately I go into business mode of, okay, this needs to be changed. This isn't good enough. This could be better. And then we're starting all over again, getting another sample and communicating with the factory and all that. And the next sample comes in. I'm like, okay, this is better. We're getting somewhere. And then I noticed something completely different. Like, for example, the strap on the heel, I wanted it to be at a different degreed angle. It was at like a 50 degree and needed to be at a 60 degree. And so even just those little changes that I literally felt like a podiatrist at one point. I was studying a foot and just the arch of people, and just I was looking up statistics of different arch supports and things you wouldn't think you'd be looking up. And okay, next sample. Okay, the arch is figured out, the strap is figured out. Do we want a different material on the toe, and just all these different things? And when I finally got the perfect sample, round 4, it was in May, and I was wanting to launch my product by June because I was giving up my title. I wanted to be able at Miss Tennessee in June to be like, that question, that infamous question, when you're about to give up your title, it's the finals night, and the host is like, what's next for you, Miss Tennessee? Boom, announce Footewear LLC. And I was like, this has to happen. So I got a mini shipment in June, not my full shipment, to be able to have shoes to show the girls at Miss Tennessee, and I launched it at the pageant. So many emotions there too. I'm giving up my crown that I worked 7 years for. I'm still tweaking stuff on the website. My dad is carrying cartons of shoes to Miss Tennessee for girls to see in person. Oh my gosh, so many moving parts, but it happened so quickly. Like you said, oh my word, to think about how much I did in such a short amount of time, I'm like, how much caffeine was I drinking?
I don't want to know. I mean, you might want to see a heart specialist after this. But I mean, what handover is emotional enough as it is, right? You worked for 7 years for your title, as you said, blood, sweat, and tears. And then to add the fact that you are debuting your own product, that you formed an LLC, that's a trademark that is intimately tied to your story as well. Do you even remember what happened over those couple of days? I've spoken to women who blacked out during their crowning moment, and almost. I've spoken to someone from Georgia, and she said she got so confused when she won, she almost walked off stage. The MC was worried she was about to run off stage just because she was so confused. You add to this fact that you worked so hard for this to launch your own brand. It was your pipe dream, and here you are passing on one dream, and then here's my next one, and you have the girls actually able to hold it.
Yes, and here I go. I'm about to prove to you that I'm even crazier. That was June 28th, that Saturday night that I was giving up my title. I went and competed that next weekend at Miss US International in my shoes. I competed for a multitude of reasons, right? I did want to compete, but I also, as a businesswoman point of view, I wanted to be able to say I competed in my own shoes.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't be retired yet in the sense of pageantry competing, because how can I launch this pageant shoe brand, that's what I'm starting it off as branding, and say that I haven't worn them for competition? So a week after launching them, a week after taking my heart out, putting it back in with the USA system, here I go to compete on a national stage. It was a lot.
Do you hate free time?
I think so.
Walk me through, what was it like competing in your own footwear brand? What was that like?
Well, I was never allowed to complain about my feet hurting for standing up for 8 hours in heels, because then it would be like, well, is it the shoes? No, it's not the shoes. The shoes are perfect. We're just standing for 10 hours a day. But I'm so happy I was able to, because I left the week without a blister. So it really did. It became everything I wanted it to be, because I wore these shoes in my apartment, like cooking dinner. I wore them in the hallway, taking the trash out, like my research and development, right? To make sure that they are comfortable and that they could be worn for hours and hours. Blisters were my biggest concern outside of the actual comfort, because so many girls just have Band-Aids on their feet by the end of pageant week. And so I left Miss US International without a single blister, with no Band-Aids on my feet. And so that was just a proud moment within itself. But also, it's crazy because as I was doing my final walk, when they called me into top 5 for Miss US International, I was so content if I didn't win in that moment because I felt so proud of myself for how much I had accomplished in that past week anyways with
Yeah.
again the switching of the titles, the launching the business, the being there on that stage. I was so content with myself, and it's hard for me to feel proud of myself because I am really hard on myself. And in that moment when I was walking on the stage, I was like, I did it. I really
Yeah.
did it.
Side note, how long did that moment last before you went, what's next?
I think maybe 45 seconds.
Show us the shoe and walk us through like the bits and pieces because you must be so proud of it and so much thought has gone. Yeah, I mean, that's great, but walk us through it because I know each part probably has its own story for you.
Yeah. So, okay, let's just work heel to toe. So, heel height, 4 inches, which is pretty standard. It's 100 millimeter about, which with really high end shoes like Christian Louboutin or Jimmy Choo, 100 pump is pretty standard. So I was like, you know, outside of pageantry, what is standard? It's that. And then I wanted to transfer that. I also knew I didn't want a platform because A, I don't need the extra height. But also, I think the elegance of just heel to toe, not having the platform, it elongates your leg. I like the look of it. And, you know, in pageantry, platforms are kind of looked down upon sometimes,
Yeah.
specifically in the Miss America program. They actually said no more platforms officially this year. Um, that was with the heel height. Then when actually putting the shoe on, I don't know if you could see here, but there's actually an elastic piece here. So
Oh,
once you set your hole of where you need it for your heel tightness, then my intention is you don't have to undo this at all. You could just slip it over your foot because of this elastic here.
got it.
When it came to the heel, since it is a stiletto and not a block heel, I knew there needed to be more cushion here because you'll feel that stiletto poke into your heel. So there is ample amount of cushion back here. I mean, I always point that out to girls when they pick it up. And I actually wanted to make sure this cushion was continued all the way through until where the arch stops. So it is squishy all the way down here. It is not as squishy here because I don't want girls to feel like they're being pressed into this, and I don't want them to feel like their toes are being pushed forward. So you get what they call the monkey toes where they curl over.
Yeah.
So I feel the padding stopping where it stops was pretty strategic too. Like I mentioned earlier with the arch support, I wanted to make sure it went through the arch, but it didn't go into where the ball of your foot was at all, so that you still felt stable down here.
Yeah.
And it's the same with here. I wanted to make sure that this material, color-wise, was aesthetic with the piping, but also was not something if you had a sweatier foot, maybe like me, you weren't slipping out of it. And I just had all this in mind when creating it. But the shoe itself is called the glass slipper. I haven't even said that yet. That is what I have the trademark on. But I think the glass slipper really embodies that perfect fit that I keep mentioning. You know,
Yeah.
Cinderella, she only had the one shoe that fit her, no one else it fit. And so having that shoe that fits you and make you have that special moment is so magical, especially for me. Like we've mentioned, I am a size 12, that a lot of brands stop at a 10, sometimes 11. So I never had my Cinderella moment. And so all of these components to make the perfect shoe, plus the size 12, that is the glass slipper.
The actual story, Cinderella, as I understand it, not the Disney-fied version, but the other version where the other stepsisters or whatever were trying to fit into the shoe. They were cutting off bits of their feet to fit in the shoe. So I think, probably not as extreme in your case, but I can certainly understand. But walk us through the evolution of it.
Mm-hmm. So I'd say there were two major things I changed. I mentioned the angle of this strap coming up. I didn't want it to be so high that it was laying on that rubbing part on the back of a girl's heel, like the higher part of your Achilles, because a lot of girls you'll actually notice have a scar there from that rubbing from all the shoes. And
I have
so,
one here.
yeah, I wanted it to be able to be low enough where it wasn't slipping off, but so it was staying on stably, but it wasn't cutting into that previous scar from where shoes normally sit. And so this angle was that. So I received it up here. I received it down here where you could not keep it on your foot. And so we had to play with where is this angle sit for it to be able to sit perfectly on the heel and still be able to stretch enough to get to that spot. Another huge thing, my piping of the coloring, because the base model is a clear, but then I have my rose gold and then the nude and then hopefully more colors. But this is stitched on. I don't know if you could see, but there's stitching. It was first just an adhesive. And so I told you I was wearing this for hours and hours. When your feet get warm, the adhesive started peeling apart. And I was like, oh, I can't have that. That's embarrassing. So then we tried a different type of adhesive. And then we tried even fish line, like a clear string. And I was like, no, we just need to find stitching that matches the metallic or stitching that matches the nude and do that so that there's no hazardous situation of it detaching.
Talk about the angle of the back strap. Do you know like the perfect angle? And maybe you can't give it away. Maybe it's a trademark secret. Maybe I shouldn't ask. But do you know any like really weird facts about feet?
There's two that come to mind. The first one is, so your arch, that gap in the middle of your foot between the ground, the average arch in centimeters on a woman is 1.8 centimeters. So that gap. So if you have a higher arch, right, you're going to probably be over 2 centimeters, or you could be flat-footed, but usually it's in that centimeter range. And who would have known that, you know?
There were two. What was the other one?
This one's more common knowledge, I feel like, but it is good to know that the most common women's shoe size in the US is an 8. So I was skewing towards the larger sizes, right, to make sure that the tall girls never went out of stock with their 11s and 12s and 10s. But I was like, okay, how small do I have to get on this first mini collection capsule? I knew I had to get to an 8 because that is the most common size. And that has proven true because that's the first size I went out of stock of.
You learn something new every day. Where did you get that one from? Was it Wikipedia or from personal experience?
Well, so I actually Googled like a million different things about shoes. And then I have a giant, I mean, as most entrepreneurs probably do, I have a giant R&D folder within my business folder. And so I was like screenshotting articles and adding it to it. And then I was like, okay, what is this? What is this? Okay. So I need to go back and see what that source actually was. But that was just a number I will never forget.
It's clearly stuck in your head. Walk me through the design process. So you have you go through the LLC, you go through all of that stuff, and then at the end of the process, you add US International, you're competing your own shoe. But how did you actually design this thing? When did that come into it, and how long did it take?
Yeah, so the design process, I actually have to give a huge shout out to Tom Brodeur, which we all know now as the new Miss USA director. But before his new ownership, he was my pageant coach turned mentor turned family, honestly.
Yeah.
He's very close with my parents as well, which is a blessing. And he helped me with the design process because I didn't know what direction I wanted to go to with like closed toe, open toe. And so we actually collaborated on that and I think spitted out 14 different designs. Yeah, it was a lot. And then it actually came down to I couldn't make a decision. So him, my parents, and I, the four of us, we were all in different places at the time too. We got on a Zoom call and we were sharing screen with these different designs, talking through it. And my mom was like, oh, well, what if we do this one on this one? And then we literally were like adding these images together. And on this Zoom call of the four of us, we figured out the final design, which was so much fun now that I think about it, because I haven't thought about it since then. But Oh my gosh, the way that this shoe could have been so many other things. Because I was thinking about a closed toe, a pointed closed
Yeah.
toe, and then I was like, I mentioned I kind of called myself out earlier. I have sweaty feet, and so if you have that clear aspect to it on the toe, it'll get foggy when it gets warm, right? And so I was like, I can't do that. I can't call my sat out like that. So we knew we had to do an open toe at that point, and so it was piecing together the design process.
Okay, but now my brain immediately goes to you. Obviously, as you mentioned, you hate free time and you always immediately go to what's next. Now you must have given some thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, you must have given some thought to, okay, we've got proof of concept, people are excited about the shoes, we have an actual product. Now I can start with a different design, right? Or a different color. Your brain must already have when you immediately got that final one, you went, yes, this is cool. You must immediately have gone, okay, now I get to do this and this and this, right?
It's crazy you say that because I actually received news yesterday on a Sunday. Breaking news. Before color or anything, I did want to extend my size range to be the full 6 to 12 because I have a lot of short friends and they they need those.
Shorter, not
Yes.
short, Crystal.
Yes.
Shorter.
Yes. But they need the 6 and 7s. And so I knew I had to expand the line to that before I could come out with another design, which means more molds, right? Because each size needs its own mold. And so that's an investment in itself. So, to my shorter queens out there, your 6 and 7s are coming. They're officially en route, and I'm excited to announce those coming to the website shortly. And so, like you said, I can't sit still. That was yesterday. I received that announcement that shipment is coming. So now that I have the full size lineup, I can start thinking about designs, and I'm starting to think about that.
You are in the unique position of being able to almost claim like pageant expenses as a tax deduction for promotional reasons for your business. So, I mean, are we retired from pageants? Are we going to see more of you on stage? I mean, you have an excuse now because it's a legitimate business expense. You need to market your shoes for pageants, so you need to do more pageants, right?
I think I'm not done in pageantry. I think I have one left in me. And I mean that sincerely, one left. I'm not going to do 5 more years. I think 2026 will mark the end of my competing, but I see myself being a part of pageantry forever. I mean, especially with this brand now. I always joked that I've loved to become a director one day, whatever capacity that looks like. And who knows, one day that'll happen. But competing wise, I have one more in me, I think. I mean, dream. Who knows if this will happen, but if I could get a department store one day, I mean, in a Neiman Marcus, in a Nordstrom, I would love to see myself as a household name. I mean, that is a huge dream, right? But if you don't put it out there, and if you don't believe it, then who else will believe it, you know?
Yeah.
But I'd say smaller scale dream of what's coming up next. I'd love to see my shoe in dress stores, right? Becoming a retailer, not just having my website. And so hopefully that will become an option soon because I just made that a tab on my website of becoming a retailer now that I know what it takes volume wise to do that. And so I'm wanting to speak with some of the bigger dress stores. Like for me, Joann's in Tennessee is what I grew up shopping at, right? So Miss Page, and then there's other retailers out there, of course, but I need to start using those connections of mine and being like, hey, do you want to carry my shoe?
I did see that tab on your website, and just in case someone who owns a a footwear store happens to be watching, are you looking for anything in particular from the retailers that you would want to work with?
I would say being open to having me create the point of sale around the brand, right?
Right.
Not just
Yep.
having the shoe boxes in the back corner with a shoe on the wall. I want it to still be a display, having
Mhm.
a moment in a small corner of the store. Yes, I understand it's more than just the shoes at the store. They have the gowns and the earrings and all the accessories that go with it. But I love to still create just a story around the brand instead of a shoe just sitting on top of a box.
Yeah, 100%. Can you share any stories that you've had from satisfied clients? Because I'm sure you've made connections with other tall women around the States. So have any of them sort of bought your shoes and then said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. This is the first shoe I've ever fit in"?
Yes, so I actually had the opportunity to be a part of the Miss America Expo in the first week of
Oh, wow.
September, and tabling there, I met all the contestants, of course, but specifically, there was a mom, not even a contestant, a mom that was a size 12 shoe, and she bought 2 pairs of shoes on the spot. "Oh my gosh, you have size 12. I need it." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, thank you so much." I was just in shock that she just wanted to buy it. She didn't know who I was, knew nothing about my story or anything. She just saw size 12 and she was like, "Thank you so much." She had so much gratitude. And I was like, I love that I just made your day. Like that, it's incredible because, like I said, I want it to be larger than pageantry. And this mom,
Yeah.
yes, yes, is a pageant mom, but who knows? Maybe she's wearing it at her desk job right now, and I'll never know.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of that.
How, just so I know, I mean, you probably have done the numbers. How difficult is it to find a size 11 or size 12 shoe as a woman?
Oh, it's extremely difficult, especially if you want cute shoes, because for whatever reason, these brands, they think if you are that size that I guess you don't want a pretty shoe. But yeah, I mean, I know the tricks of the trade, go to Nordstrom Rack in the back corner, there's a size 12 section. Or if you have the funds, European brands, they do go up to a size 42, which is a 12, but I mean, not everyone wants to spend $1,000 on a pair of Jimmy Choos every weekend.
That would be ideal. Talk to us about the logo as well, because I mean that's a design unto itself. So how did you come up with the logo?
I actually have this crown tattooed behind my ear. So it became a logo from my tattoo because I was drawing up things. My dad, he's really artistic. He was drawing up logos. Again, Tom, he got involved with the design, and we made a mock one that almost looked like a Gucci logo of like the backward G's but backward
Yeah.
crowns and all these things. And I was like, no, it just doesn't feel authentic to me. I'm like, you know what? I literally have this right here. And I got this tattoo for a multitude of reasons, but it means just I don't need to win a crown to be a part of pageantry. I already have a crown on my head. I do pageantry to serve others. And I was like, that is a message within itself. And again, I do pageantry to serve others. I want this shoe line to serve others. I want girls to find their perfect fit. And so I took a picture of it and then literally put my phone brightness all the way up, put a piece of paper on it, and sketched over. I'm like, can we turn this into a JPEG?
Tell the people watching, I think this is really important, how much of a part you've gotten to an amazing point with your entrepreneurship career. How much of that would you say, I don't know if the right word is but how much of a part did pageantry play? Because I found that there's a big crossover. I'm sure I don't need to tell you this. Between entrepreneurship and pageantry, there's a huge crossover. Whether the girls want to start a business or non for profit, there's a huge entrepreneurial drive. And I'm just curious as to how many of the skills that you worked on or developed through pageantry came in handy when it came to not only starting, but actually creating and having footwear.
I think a good bit. I mean, there's a lot of transferable skills from pageantry to my education to my work life and now, being an entrepreneur. But I'd say the biggest skill that has come in handy is just being a believer in yourself. And that may not be what people would think, but I think to start a business, you have to believe that you could do it. And if you're going to
Yeah.
compete in pageantry, you have to believe that you can win. Yes, it's not all about winning, but I had to believe that I could become Miss Tennessee USA, that I could become Miss USA. And so when it came to starting my business and giving it 110%, I was like, I can do this. I will do this. And so having that mindset really helped me propel myself forward, especially at the beginning when you aren't seeing the physical product and you're questioning
Yeah.
yourself if it's all worth it. And so again, with, competing for 7 years, is it all worth it? Putting together a business, is it all worth it? And it is all worth it. I could confidently say that now. So I think that would be the biggest thing I took from pageantry into entrepreneurship.
If people want to get a pair, get their hands on a pair, and I'll put whatever you say below so it's easy to click. What's the best way to get their hands or their feet into a pair?
Well, right now you can follow me on Instagram at Footewear by Christell. And then there's also my website, which is Footewear. Make sure with Footewear, oh, you can see right here, has the E on it, like my last name, but footwear.store. And you can shop them there. And one little testimony beyond that, too, like I mentioned, I was at Miss America and there was a contestant. I'll say who she is because she posted my shoes. Thank you so much. But Miss Pennsylvania tried my shoes on the spot, said they were so comfortable. That night, wore them to finals on the Miss America stage. Didn't practice in them, didn't have training sessions in them. She felt so confident in them that she walked on the Miss America stage in them. And I think that is the only testimony I need. I need to have her quote it, put it on my website. But I really want pageant girls to know that you can wear these confidently and comfortably.
I think it's always a bit underestimated. Like you want someone who knows the industry because it's only someone who really knows the industry and what people go through, then they can design the perfect product because they've been through all the blisters and the band-aids and God knows what else that you girls put yourselves through with the feet in specifically. But I think it's really important that you have the 7 years, right? The 7 years experience of trying to find the right shoe, not finding it, having all these issues, and that it's like what they call turn your mess into your message. And I think that's really, really important because you understand all the pain points that pageant girls have, don't you?
Yeah, 1,000%. I love that. I forget about that saying, turn your mess into your message. Absolutely. I think I've done just that. And I mean, even turning my last name into my message, right? I mean, it's nice to be able to just self-brand and not have to worry about the branding portion. Well, I'm Christell Foote, you know. But I've just been so grateful for the journey so far of how supportive the pageant community has been because at the end of the day, people have to put their money where their mouth is with me, right? They have to buy a pair of shoes. And
Mm,
yes, I, you know, can do the sponsorship with pageants and this and that. And I want to do that eventually, but I am a startup. I can only have so much capacity of free product. And
yeah,
so I am so appreciative of girls, like I said, putting their money where their mouth is and ordering a pair because that means that they're putting trust in me. And
yeah.
I mean, I'll never get over that. I'm very grateful.
Putting their money where their feet are, not putting their money where their mouth is. In your case, silly question: how long did it take to come up with the brand name or footwear, or was that like the first thing? Like that's an own goal. That's so easy.
I was calling my shoes my footwear with this spelling before the company even existed. I mean, I like posted on Instagram too, even like me and my footwear, I always said it. And so it just was natural. I didn't even have to think about the brand.
And completely unrelated question. We've already mentioned that you hate free time. You did mention you have a day job. What do you do for your day job?
Well, it's going to be a really long title and it's going to make me sound really corporate, but just hang with me. I work for E&J Gallo Winery as a market development manager in our sales division for the on-premise market. So, what all that means is Gallo is the largest alcohol supplier in the world, and still family owned, and I work in their sales division, connecting our distributors with our consumers and giving them all the data analytics that they need to be successful with sales in the market.
As an Australian, all I got from that was you get to drink wine for free. That's all.
Yes, I do get to do that.
Hypothetical, right? Let's say you land your Neiman Marcus or whatever it is, or you're on a Paris runway or something like that. You get a chance to celebrate. What are you celebrating with? Given that you work in the alcohol industry, what are you going to be celebrating it with? Or it could be non-alcoholic, no judgment, because that's a big thing as well. But what are you celebrating with?
I feel like I have to pop a bottle of champagne in that moment. I need to have the bubbles moment, but that's not my favorite thing to drink. So I almost would be wasteful in that moment. I'm so sorry to pop a bottle, maybe a bottle of Prosecco, not as expensive as champagne. And then it's crazy you said that, I'd actually drink a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. My favorite is actually one of our brands. It's Whitehaven. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
That's one of my brands, and I love it. So I would be celebrating with a glass of Whitehaven.
Just before we get to the final 10 questions, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey? I mean, you mentioned your parents, you mentioned Tom. Anyone else?
I'd have to say I have two very best friends, Kaylee and Bree. They have supported this dream since the beginning. They were who I was texting in the midst of all of it when I was still keeping it a secret because I didn't want to jinx myself. And they both wore my heels for their competition. Again, no practice. They wore my heels proud and posted all about it. And just their love and support really means a lot to me.
How hard was it keeping it a secret?
So hard because like I said, I have a normal job, and it's hard to keep things separate sometimes. And so I would go into work exhausted some days because of the time change. I was speaking with people over in Asia, right? In Indonesia, China, and Thailand. And I was staying up at all hours of the night, as you know, the huge time difference.
Yeah.
And so I would go to work so exhausted some days, and I would hope that wouldn't be fully portrayed because, I have that desk job for a reason, but I always just tried to stay caffeinated.
Let's revive your pageant career for a sec for the final 10 questions. So 10 random Q&A. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Oh, my favorite what?
Word.
Word? Well, I'll tell you what my interview coach would tell me that I had to get rid of. My favorite word was actually. Actually, I think da-da-da-da-da. Actually, da-da-da. I had to cut it out.
It's ranked up there with words such as honestly and like. What number 2, what's your least favorite word then?
Probably specifically. If I was trying to say specifically in a sentence, I would always say it too quickly, and then I would mess it up. I could never say it.
In life, what gets you excited?
I love watching people win. Even if it's not me winning, I love watching a reaction of a winner. If it's in pageantry, if it's in sports, if it's a team. Oh my gosh, I love seeing people win and just have that moment of celebration.
Yeah, I get that one as a tennis player, and when your favorite player wins, you really feel like you've shared that victory with them. You also share the losses with them as well. I'll say that much. What about, so that's what turns you on. What turns you off?
Oh, these are hard-hitting questions, even though they're supposed to be speed round. I'd say if someone doesn't stick to their word, because I'm a person of my word. And so if you're not sticking to it, then I'm like, oh, hand.
Thank you. Next. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, probably the opening of a can of Coke. And you hear the little fizzies.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Car alarms. When you accidentally go to open your door and it starts the car alarm, oh, my heart drops.
You do unlock your car before you try and open it, don't you? Why is the alarm going off if it's your car? What's happening?
It doesn't happen to me personally, but when I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store or something and I see it
Right.
happen to someone else.
Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Oh, I'd want to speak any language in the world so that I could communicate with anyone.
Do you have any second languages? Are you learning any? Any Duolingo preferences?
So I minored in Spanish in college and I'm still working on it. I feel like my Spanish will always be present, but I want to start learning a little bit of Portuguese actually.
Okay. Any reason Portuguese?
Because, well, Portugal actually has great leather options if you catch my drift.
Oh, I have no idea. Tell me more. Number 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Hmm. I'd love to be really great at coding for a day to see what that's like because I'm not a computer geek in that sense of I still look at the keyboard when I type. So to be able to code something and have it up and running, I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
How many fingers do you use to type, though? Please tell me it's not 2.
No, I do the full what they teach you with put the F and the J and okay, you go.
Okay. What about what job would you like to attempt? Not like to attempt.
Oof, anything with the ocean, like I don't think I could work on a cruise ship ever. I think I would like feel claustrophobic even if it's on a giant ship.
I'll say don't go on a submarine then. If you feel claustrophobic on a boat, I can
Yeah,
assure you
no
that a
submarine.
submarine, literally a tin can under the water. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would want him to say that he's proud of me and that I should be proud of myself because it's really hard for me to be proud of myself. And so I almost would ask for or want him to give me that approval at the end of it all.
Well, Christell, it's been amazing getting to talk to you. I'll put all the links below. You've seen the shoe, you've heard about the work that's gone into it, and you've heard some pretty amazing testimony. I almost feel like on the package, just say blister free guaranteed or something like that, or no testing required, no break-in required.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck with the brand.
Thank you so much. Thank you.